It's the Church Solutions Podcast, episode number 390. My name is Phil Thompson.
And I'm Steve Lacy.
Steve Lacy, it's 103 degrees right now at 10 o'clock in the morning here in Tucson, Arizona. You have a swimming pool. Do you use it?
We do.
Yeah.
Probably not enough, but yeah.
How come you never invite me over?
I don't know. You live too far away.
That's a good excuse. Yeah. All right.
You're welcome to come over.
Okay.
We do not get in it as much as we should. We're trying to get back in the habit. So
yeah. Well, it's definitely a good time to have one if it's cool enough. And of course, everybody all over the country is having all sorts of different climate issues. But we are glad that you are with us today. We're coming up on episode 400, Steve. It's that's not even official. We've probably done more than that, but this is episode 390. Can you believe it?
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing.
Started live streaming way before podcasts were cool.
Yeah, so that's right.
So we probably well over 400.
Yeah, we probably are well over 400.
Yeah.
So Steve, we've got a webinar coming up that's actually coming up next week. You want to tell us a little bit about the webinar and what it is and who's in it and all that good stuff?
So we have Jason Moore, the author of Both and he's going to talk about 7 ways to increase your engagement in your hybrid worship. So he is, I don't know, world-renowned, at least nationally known speaker. And so he's going to be joining us for this webinar. And we have tried to condense him down into 30 minutes. So we're going to try our best because I think we've graced him 40 minutes because he normally an hour presentation. So he's got a lot of info and it's really popular. So tune in, sign up at webinar.streamingchurch.tv if you want to join. It's next week, next Tuesday.
Webinar.streamingchurch.tv next Tuesday, 12 noon Eastern time and 9 Pacific time. And Jason Miller's a lot of fun. He'll put on a really good presentation. And, we try to keep our webinars short, but and it might be a little longer, but it'll be good. And there's Q&A afterwards. And we're going to talk about hybrid. So is that like gasoline and electric? Is that what that means?
Yeah, it is live stream and in person.
Oh, okay.
So how to make the most of your services, your hybrid worships services, as most people are doing in person and live streaming. So
there you go. All right. Well, let's get into our episode today. We're privileged to have a great guy with us here as our guest. He's the director of WorshipHouse Media. He's been with WorshipHouse for, since 2010. He's also on the leadership team of his local church called Center Church, which is in Richmond, Virginia. And even before White House, I said that again, White House. I was talking before the recording here. I have the initials WHM, and I want to say White House, but it's WorshipHouse Media. So before he was on WorshipHouse Media staff there, he was actually on staff of another church plant. And I like people that do church plants. I've had my hand in some of those. And by the way, WorshipHouse Media, and we'll get into this with our guest, the WorshipHouse Media is a Christian media company that provides churches with a variety of resources and helps them to engage with God through the creative media arts. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, don't worship him, but welcome him, Luke Miller. Luke, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on today.
Too much W's here, WorshipHouse, White House. But we're glad that you're here. Thanks for being with us today. We're glad you're with us. So I'll just kick off things and I'll let Steve kind of take the ball once I punt here. When and how did this whole idea of WorshipHouse Media start?
Yeah, so WorshipHouse Media started in October of 2005. Really actually pretty early in the online video distribution world. YouTube started in July of 2005. So that kind of gives you an idea. And before you could do, sort of these downloadable resources that we offer, you'd have to order a DVD in the mail based on a paper catalog and just hope that when you actually got the video that you ordered, you liked it and, had the technology to play So, so we kind of said we want to simplify that process. We want to create a way that you can actually view the whole product before you buy it, but then also you can instantly download it. So we've got people downloading stuff Sunday morning every single week. You know, a lot of people are doing stuff before that, but you can just download it and use it right away. So that's we wanted to create like a really easy, convenient place. We also are a curator of media, so we've got about 400 independent producers around the world that are creating this content for us and sending it in. So not only are we like a quick and easy platform for you to be able to preview and download this content, but you also have access to you know, media from people in urban settings and rural settings and American settings and global settings, and you know, every different style of church and denomination. So we really want to have something for everybody.
So where's the big target for media? What type of media? We're talking brochures, video, to what's the most popular?
Yeah, that's great. So everything that we do is designed for the screen. So everything that we do is designed to go up on a screen in a church service. When I say up on a screen, I've been doing this for 12 years, so the old habits die hard. I mean both that big screen that's up in front of a church, but also the small screen now when people are streaming their services. So we don't do print materials. We don't do you know, stuff for social media outside of the fact that we do make video content that people are sharing that way. But yeah, our thing is we want to help bring your services to life. We want to help deepen the worship experience. We want to help create the parameters and the transitions that you need for your church service. And then we do a ton of what we call mini movies, which are little short films, usually 1 minute to 2 minutes, some are a little bit longer. But those are kind of designed to help reinforce a message of some sort. So you're preaching on prayer, you can show one of these short videos on prayer, and hopefully if they don't remember your sermon, they remember the video that they saw.
Interesting. So I know our church has been doing this for a long time. I'm not sure if we use WorshipHouse or not, but I'm just wondering, what percentage of churches are using a screen for, you know, I know at our church we use it for transitions between say announcements in worship and the message and end of the message and that sort of thing. Is that where most other churches are doing it? And what percentage of churches are filling in with that type of thing?
Yeah, you know, one of the things that's been most interesting to me in my career is really starting out, but then even over the last 12 years of doing this, is just how diverse the church is in what I thought the church was before, because I was involved with, you know, a handful of churches and I saw what they did and I just assumed everybody did that. But, you know, with 250,000 churches in America, you know, who knows how many globally, some of those churches are massive and have a lot of resources and a lot of people who can kind of execute some of those more complicated things like transition pieces and, you know, operating presentation software and all that. But so many churches are 100 people or less. They're meeting in someone's living room. They're meeting in a strip center or a high school gymnasium, or, you know, there's all kinds of levels of this. So as best we can tell, about 60% of churches now are using media in some way or another. They've got a projector and they're using it in some way or another. And they're either using, you know, ProPresenter, Media Shout, Easy Worship, you know, one of these like software programs that's designed for worship presentation, or they're using PowerPoint or Keynote or, you know, Windows Media Player or any one of these things. But yeah, we think that a little over half of the churches, at least in North America, now at least at some point throughout the year are using media in their service.
I'll tell you. Go ahead, Steve. I've got a little story to tell, but
yeah. Just quick question. You mentioned projectors. Is that, I would assume that number is a lot higher. Can you do church without a projector today?
There's a lot of churches out there. You know, it's funny. I live in Virginia, and my wife and I like to go on kind of these long road trips and long drives around the state. And you just pass these little country churches, you know, as you're driving along. That's, the sanctuary probably couldn't seat more than 50 people. And I don't think they've got screens. I think they've still got those books, and they're still passing out the paper flyers at the door. But yeah, I think sometimes we take for granted, especially like in churches of any kind of size, like we just take for granted what some churches are able to do with their volunteers and staff, that a lot of churches of 50 people or less, or of a certain demographic that don't have that technology or that budget, don't have. And really and truthfully, and I'll quit talking for a second, but that's our heart. Our heart is those small churches that don't have the video team to make their own stuff, who don't have a massive staff, who don't have all the editing tools and presentation tools and whatever. We want to create really like easy plug and play resources for obviously churches of massive numbers. Mega churches use our products, but we really think about like the churches of 100, 150 people that don't have the time, don't have the resources. That was my background as a pastor for 10 years, was a part of a small church that never had any money and never had any volunteers. And, I was just burning both ends of the candle, trying to do the work of ministry. So we're thinking, how do we make life easy for that guy? How do we make life easy for that church? But then also give them the tools to really creatively communicate the gospel of Jesus.
I'll tell a story real quick to show my appreciation for WorshipHouse Media. So Steve mentioned his church, which I used to be on staff at, is doing transitions and those kind of things. But back in the day, in the 90s, I remember we had a VCR, and there was a movie that we were going to show a clip from. And so we found the area of the movie that we wanted to show the clip from. And so you'll appreciate this, Steve. So we queued it up, and we went to run it. And before the actual area that we wanted to be, the thing had backed up a little bit. And there was a shot of this woman's cleavage that came before the clip that we actually wanted to see, but we didn't have it edited. We just had the thing backed up and okay, hit play. So on the screen, you see this cleavage. It wasn't naked boobs or anything, but it was cleavage, and then it went into the clip. And we had two services. We were running two services, right? So the next time we told the guy, I won't say his name because he's still there, but we said, now look, be careful. Don't let this thing back up again. And sure enough, the second service starts, and guess what? Nice big shot of cleavage on the two screens. So anyhow, I appreciate the tools that WorshipHouse Media brings. Are we going to leave this on the podcast, or should we edit it out? But my church has used it as well, but I think it brings a lot of benefits. And and as you were just saying, Luke, especially if you have a small church, a small team, volunteers, it just makes life so much easier. How would you say, you mentioned about how it enhances worship? Can you give me an example of how something that WorshipHouse Media offers that helps enhance the worship experience for a local church?
Yeah, for sure. So we've got a bunch of different product categories. Like I said, they're all designed to go on that screen during a church service. So that starts with like countdown timer videos. That's a 5-minute countdown that tells people to wrap up their conversation and find their seat so that you can get everybody ready to go. We also do like the short films. I've already mentioned those, but we also do a ton of worship backgrounds. So these are either still images or motion images that will go behind the lyrics on the screen. This is something that a lot of people use to just add a little more depth, a little more texture. So like from kind of the surface, just creating a little bit more aesthetic beauty. But even beyond that, we have a ton of stuff that's like nature footage, for instance. So you're singing a song about the majesty of God, or you're singing a song about creation or the bigness of this creator God that we worship. And, you'll have a mountain behind them, or behind the lyrics, or an ocean or something. And it's one of those little subtle things that we hope no one's thinking like, oh, cool, yeah, mountain, that makes me think of God. We hope that it just kind of subtly helps people think about the bigness and greatness of God. And there's a ton of things like that. We've got backgrounds that have crosses in them. So when you're singing a song about the cross, it just kind of adds that little bit of visual interest there to kind of deepen things. One of the things that I say a lot is that good church media is kind of like cat burglary. And just follow me for a second. But a really good cat burglar, if they're going to break into your house and steal something, when you get home, you're not going to ever know that they were there. And so I like to think of good church media is subtle in such a way that you deepen someone's worship experience. You help them think more deeply. You help them connect more deeply. You help them remember something that they might not have remembered. But hopefully, when you're done with that, they never knew you were there. Hopefully they're not getting in the car thinking like, hey, did you see that background? That was really cool. Hopefully they're talking about like, man, I really connected with God this morning. So anyway, that's the way that I like to think about it and talk about church media.
That's true for the sound guy too. I mean,
Yes.
we've said that for a long time. It was like, if you're doing the best job in the world, nobody knows you were there or that you're doing anything. It's only when you have a faux pas that everyone goes, oh my gosh.
Yeah, all the necks turned around to the back of the room.
Yeah. So you mentioned something that, and I'm not a pro presenter jockey or media shout or any of those different softwares. I was assuming that all of that background that's behind the worship lyrics was part of those packages. But you're saying that Worship House, you can embed the Worship House content behind your lyrics. How does that? Don't get into too much of the technical stuff, but can it be done for no matter what software I'm using or what presentation software or whatever I'm doing?
Yeah, all of our stuff is completely platform agnostic. So when you purchase something from us, you're purchasing either an MP4 or an MOV. We actually have all of our videos come with both of those options. So you buy the one file, you've got 4 different video or maybe 6 different video choices there that you can download. So whatever software you're using, whatever its preferred format is, you can use it. So our stuff is designed to go into anything. We can go into PowerPoint, Windows Media Player, QuickTime.
And you would just bring it in and say, loop this, because we don't know when the song's going to end or how far, I guess that's how it, you don't have to time anything. You just loop the video that's the background. If it's a moving image background. So okay.
Yeah, most of our motion backgrounds are 30-second loops. There's a couple of exceptions where we'll do like what's called a long play, which will be kind of like maybe a drone shot that goes on for like 5 minutes or something. The way those presentation softwares work, because they're built for worship and they kind of get this idea from the get-go, is you throw a video in behind a song and it automatically knows just to loop whatever video that is.
Okay. I know that, I'm not sure where our church gets our stuff, but we do different series, and I'm sure it's easier than I anticipate. But, pastor comes up with a sermon series, and so there's a theme, and I'm thinking pastor came up with sermon series, but I don't know, he probably grabbed it from somewhere else. And then all of a sudden we've got videos that are consistent with that sermon series theme and all these things. How if I'm a pastor, and let's say I'm not doing this yet, I may have had some volunteers try to create some bumper videos and said, oh, this is going to be much easier buying it, but I don't, I want to keep true to my own style and my own message. And what hurdles would I anticipate if I'm gonna, I don't know, teach on the life of Paul or something, or something that, how hard am I going to be able to find content? Tell me about that. Talk to that guy.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of churches out there, really big and small now, as some tools have gotten better. Things like After Effects and Photoshop and Canva, and, some of these tools have gotten a lot better and more accessible. There's a lot of churches, big and small, that are making their own custom stuff every week. Some of the gigantic churches have a whole media staff who's making the stuff custom for them. Then you might get into a smaller, church that really values this stuff, and they've got one person that's kind of their job is to do this. So we have a lot of resources that if you aren't all that concerned about like the absolute specificity of how well this video relates to exactly the thing that you're talking about, you can just grab something on Sunday morning and 30 seconds after it downloads, throw it up on your screen. I mean, like we've got a library of about 30,000 mini movies that have been created over the years and from all these different creators that can be used. And some are funny and some are serious and some are text-based and some have an actor and some have voiceover. I mean, there's just the sky's kind of the limit on what you can do there. But then also we have what's called a collection, like what we call as a collection. And what that is, it's a themed pack of motion backgrounds, countdowns, usually like the welcome slide or the communion slide or the thanks for coming slide, that's all kind of designed together. So someone can grab one of those packs, pull it down, make their own bumper using some of the backgrounds. They can use those backgrounds throughout the service for notes and that sort of thing. And they can also use those transition videos. So they can actually theme their entire service or their entire series just using something that we've got and kind of modifying it a little bit. But again, you know, if you're preaching on Psalm 23, for instance, we have a ton of Psalm 23 videos that kind of creatively interpret Psalm 23. If you're preaching on Psalm 20, I don't know, I'm trying to think of one that's not obscure, but if you're preaching on a psalm that's not as, we may not have as much content related to that. And if you're preaching on, you know, Philippians, we've probably got some things that are kind of intros to Philippians. But if you know, maybe you're doing Deuteronomy or something that week, we may not have as creative and as full a library on that. But we do have the blanks, like we have all of the like tools and resources you can use to pull that stuff down and customize.
What if you're Catholic and you're doing the Apocrypha? You got anything there? Got any of that material?
We have a lot of blank content. Yeah, I mean, we primarily work with Protestant evangelical churches, but we have a bunch of people who use WorshipHouse Media in Catholic settings, in parachurch settings. We've got schools that use our content for things, you know, because a great deal of our graphics they're not specific at all. They're motion backgrounds, or they're still backgrounds that you could say welcome to math class just as easy as you can say welcome to church. So yeah, so you know, we don't discriminate on who we use, and we definitely want to have resources for everyone. We're going to be at the Capture Conference in a couple of weeks, and one of the reasons why we go there is because there's a bunch of really talented people who work in churches who are creating content all over the world. But they're going to convene there, and we're going to get to meet some really talented people who are making this stuff for their churches. And we hope that we can find some people that are making stuff in some different places and maybe fill some gaps that we might have.
I was going to ask you, who does this stuff for you? I mean, you don't have to get specific, but I mean, how do you find people to create content? You just put an ad out there on Craigslist or something, or what? How's that work?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of churches who make their own stuff. And I would say most of the people who we work with either are currently on the staff of a church or they used to be. And that's kind of how they kind of caught the bug for this. So they're making stuff for their church this Sunday. And a lot of times they make that stuff. They spend hours and hours and hundreds of, not thousands of dollars making this stuff. And it just goes on a server somewhere and dies. So we kind of go out there and pitch the vision that, like, hey, you're spending all of this time and resource making this stuff, and then it just goes into an archive somewhere. Why not share that with us and with we work with about 50,000 churches. So why not share that with these churches that would like kill to have the kind of resources that you guys have, so that they can make their services better. So a lot of people are either like, you know, on the staff of a church and they've got some sort of arrangement where they're able to share this stuff. Or maybe they're a volunteer with their church, so they kind of get that, but they have their own independent production company. Or, you know, they're just somebody who does design and videography as a hobby, or maybe they make commercials in their local market, or, you know, something. But these are all people who have a heart for what we do as a church, and are wanting to create content to send through us.
All right. So you mentioned Capture Conference. We too will be at Capture Conference. So if we have any listeners out there, I think we have a handful of guest passes. So listen for the email at the end of this thing. And if you're interested in going to be in Dallas, August 7th through the 9th, reach out to us. And if you want to go to the conference on us, we can make it happen. Let's see. So is most of the content intended for transition stuff? I know at my church, and I just wanted to branch out here, it's all kind of geared for transition. And I know they'll say I'm talking about a fulfilling marriage. I would go to WorshipHouse Media, type in a bunch of keywords, fulfilling marriage, and I assume everything is indexed, and it would come up with a half a dozen clips that say, hey, here's some suggestions. Is that kind of how the system works? Or
yeah, I mean, that the search feature that you're talking about, yeah, like you're talking about marriage, so you can come in and search marriage, and you'll see kind of like simple background animation stuff that might just say like that might say marriage series, or that's not what it would say. It would say something much more creative than I can come up with on the fly. But it would say something that could kind of be like a transition piece. But then we also have like this library of mini movies that are like that 1 to 2 minute thing, where we might have someone who's talking about the struggle they had in their marriage. They might we might have a comedian who's kind of talking to the camera and talking about marriage. And I will say, like, I don't know that transition is really the word, but everything that we do is to support an existing church service and ministry. So we don't have like teaching videos. Like we don't have really anything that's like designed to like replace an in-person pastor or a on-screen pastor. But we don't have something that's designed to teach as much as it is to support the teaching and the worship and all of that.
Okay, so that kind of leads to, I mean, I think you may have answered the second part, which I was thinking you guys didn't do, but apparently you do. So we have the transitions that are typically, flowing graphics, and it's a 30-second kind of thing that allows the worship band to get off the stage before the pastor comes up, kind of thing. And it's tied into the message. But you do have, if I need to, if I'm teaching on a particular topic and I want to really illustrate it, I can go to your library and say, hey, give me an example of husband and wife arguing or something like that. And then I could pull that short clip up, include it in my message.
Yeah, and it's not like stock in the sense that it would be like, here's an example of a couple arguing. It's a produced video where somebody kind of said like, hey, we want to communicate this particular thing. And so, yeah, there's lots of different ways that people might crack that. They might, again, make a little comedy sketch. There might be something that's largely text-based, or that has a voiceover. But yeah, that's really our primary product is what we call the mini movie, which is that 1 to 2 minute video. It's designed to either start a worship service or to be as a transition from worship into a sermon, or in some cases used like in the middle of a sermon to kind of illustrate a point and kind of deepen that experience.
If you need video clips of husband and wife arguing, I can provide you a lot of those clips. You want to do that. All right, we're out of time here. I was expecting Luke to just spew out his water bottle there that he was but he didn't think it was that funny. All right, so we're just about out of time here. Luke Miller is our guest today. Luke, how can people get a hold? I mean, where do they go if they want more information?
Let me ask another question. So I'm on the fence, and I want to do this. I don't want to spend a bunch of money. I don't want to commit my next year's services to this. What's the obligation to get exposed to WorshipHouse Media?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we don't require a membership or subscription. So everything is available as an individual purchase. So you can come and browse everything that we've got. You can actually watch full previews of all of the content. So it's like a very low resolution, small little postage stamp size, but you can watch a full preview of it and kind of get a feel for what they say and make sure you like it and all that kind of stuff. And if you do, then you just sign up for an account and download what you need when you need it. So yeah, super like I said, we wanted to make it really, really easy for people to know what they're getting and get it quickly. and without, signing their life away.
Okay.
Good deal.
So
All right.
another sensitive question. So if I have a clip I need to download for this week, what would I expect to pay for that clip?
So it really depends on the product type, but if we're talking about the mini movie, like we were talking about before, they're usually about $20.
Okay.
There might be a little bit more, a little bit less, but they're designed to be affordable and accessible for small churches.
Yeah, that's very affordable. So, okay, just
Yeah,
trying to
good.
put myself in some one of our listeners and going, hey, this looks interesting. I'll try this out.
Yeah.
So website, what's the website address?
Yeah, WorshipHouseMedia.com.
All right.
It's pretty straightforward. We also have a sister site called WorshipHouseKids.com, which is everything we just talked about, but for kids ministry. So I'll throw in a plug for that too.
Well, that's pretty cool. I forgot about that. That's great. Well, I can just tell you that I did use Worship House Media when I was on staff, and it's a great tool, and I encourage people to check it out. And we appreciate you spending some time with us today, Luke. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
All right. And again, WorshipHouseMedia.com is the website. If you have any questions, you can always probably go there. Or if you want to send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv. We'll be happy to forward any questions to Luke Miller. And as Steve mentioned earlier, the Capture Summit, which is in August, we have some guest passes. So if you're going to be in that's in the Dallas area. So if you're going to be in that neck of the woods, or you're listening to this podcast or watching it, whatever, reach out to us, support@streamingchurch.tv, and we'll see if we can hook you up with some guest passes. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today, both of you. I appreciate Steve very much, even though I harass him. And Luke, I hope that you'll come back sometime and be our guest again.
Yeah, it'd be great.
All right, and folks, thank you. If you haven't subscribed to the Church Solutions Podcast, you could do so wherever you get your podcast. Just look for Church Solutions Podcast and subscribe. Give us a rating if you would, and we'd be happy to help you. If anything, one of the things that we like to do here, we're a company primarily that does streaming video, streamingchurch.tv, but we also like to be, I guess, a place for resources to help churches connect and grow and provide material and content for them. So anything we can help you to do with our webinars or our blog.streamingchurch.tv, whatever we can do to help your church, we are here for you. That's our whole vision. So again, thanks so much. And please, all of you, thanks for being a part of the Church Solutions Podcast. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you next time on another episode.